Welcome back for another Entitled Parent video. Today we have 3 Entitled Parent stories for you to enjoy. As always, don't forget to share and like if you enjoy these videos. Without further ado, here we go. Entitled Mom tries to make me stand on a bus in crutches. I'm a mobile, so sorry for any format issues. This one is also pretty dialogue heavy. When I was a freshman in high school, I dislocated my kneecap. Normally, this type of injury heals up really fast, but for some reason in all the 3 times I've done it, it's taken me months to heal. After 3 weeks after I injured my knee, I was taking the public bus to school. I sat in the very front reserved for disabled and elderly people. Now at the time I had just taken off my leg immobilizer and was waiting on a knee brace to be ordered, so I had no brace on my knee and couldn't bend it at all. The only way you could tell I was injured was the fact that one knee was twice the size as my other and I had crutches next to me. Enter the entitled parent. We'll call her EM. EM stormed onto the bus dragging her poor kid behind her, a 4 or 5-year-old boy who was fairly quiet during the incident. After she paid her fare, she sped down the aisle and kicked my extended leg. Remember, can't bend it. I cried out in pain and clutched my knee, and she scoffed. No apology or anything, just scoffed. Okay, fine. I just tell her not to worry about it and she walks away further down the bus looking for a seat. She juts her head around like a chicken searching for a seat on this already full bus and lets out a long, exasperated huff before turning to look at me and a single empty seat beside me. EM approaches and asks, "Can my son use the seat beside you?" I nod my head and gesture him to sit down. After he sat down, the entitlement began. EM, "So when are you going to get up?" I asked if my son could use that seat. Obviously I need to sit next to him. He's too young to be alone. Me, "I'm sorry, but I can't really move. There's no more open seats and I'm not really in the condition to stand." I point towards my crutches. "But there's a standing bar right next to him you can use." "Don't lie, I hit your leg earlier and you said not to worry about it. Can't you just stand instead?" "I'm not stupid, I know those crutches are only up for emergencies. They're not yours. You're sitting up here sticking your leg out in the aisle to act injured. Go stand like everyone else your age. I swear, you teens are so entitled." "Look, you can ask the bus driver whether or not I came on this bus with crutches. My leg is out in the aisle because I can't bend it. I've spent the last few weeks in a leg immobilizer. Could you just leave me alone?" "Okay, fine, but what happened to your leg anyway? It doesn't look injured at all." "I dislocated my knee." EM's face goes red and she grabs my injured leg and tries to forcefully bend it. She realizes she can't because the joints are locked and pulls the stop wire. I scream out in pain and the bus driver stops and walks over to where I'm sitting. He says he heard everything but minded his own business because he didn't think she would get physical. When the bus driver admonishes EM's behavior, she turns into a sputtering mess. I wasn't part of this particular conversation because I was too busy ugly crying. BD, what the hell did you think you were doing when you assaulted a crippled child? I thought she was lying. I've seen people dislocated their knee before. Her story didn't add up. It doesn't take that long to heal. So instead of calling her out, you decided to try to force her leg to bend. It's not up to you to decide if she's lying or not. Get the F off my bus. "But I have to take my son to daycare. You can't just kick us off. We have places to be." "Okay, if you don't get off my bus right now, the only place you'll be going is a jail cell." The EM's eyes went wide and she grabbed the kid, dragging him off with her out the back exit. BD apologized for not stepping in sooner and tries to calm me down. Through my tears, I told him not to worry and just start the bus again. The pain eventually subsided, but I spent the rest of the day icing my knee in the nurse's office. I never got an apology or a name, but I wish I could go back and press charges. People are seriously crazy sometimes. Just wanted to wait for dinner in peace. Also, boobs? I apologize for format and punctuation. English, though the only language I speak, is difficult. There are so many of these stories. Like the others, mine too is dumb and ridiculous. There, like in the rest, was a pair of entitleds. Mother, EM, and son, EK. Mentions of friends who's just a friend. This happened about 4 hours ago. I was meeting a perpetually late dude friend for dinner. Knowing he would be late, I showed up at the actual meeting time to get our names in for a table. I do that, sit on a bench and check my phone. Photo messages from dude friend. K photos, great, if he just sent them. He just got out of the water and the nearest spring is 48 miles away. He's gonna be an hour late. I put my phone on the bench, by my leg and rub my face with my hands. I take a few breaths and reach down for my phone. No phone. I looked over. Youngish boy, 11ish, is next to me looking at the photos. I get it, they're cool if you've seen it before, so I just watch him for a second. Then he closes the text photos and I ask for my phone back. There are things on this phone a sweet child shouldn't see. This is where entitled mom shows up. Me, hey there, can I have that back? EK, EM, he's not doing anything, leave him be. Me, I didn't say he was doing anything wrong, but I need to make a call. I reach for the phone and the kid slips off the bench and runs to the other side of his mom, lip beginning to quiver. EM, how dare you to try snatch my son's phone, you're making him upset. I just need my phone. At this time the host has noticed the vibes and asks if we were okay. This lady is trying to take my son's phone. Untrue, I left it on by my leg and he picked it up. It's... EM, she's clearly lying, he got it for his birthday. Host looks to me, can you prove it's yours? I think for a moment, how old are you? Host, 19. Why? Me, go to the gallery. Host takes phone from now crying EK and finds the gallery. Scrolls through the photo for a second longer than may be necessary. Me, as you can see, that is about 40 photos of my newly pierced tits. If this were his phone, this would be a bad situation. A huge reason I didn't want EK playing around on it too much. EM, filth! You exposed my child to pornography, you need to be in an asylum where you can't hurt anyone else. The host asked them to leave. Much anger and wailing comes from the duo. When the host finally comes back to me to the table, he apologizes and informs me I have a beautiful cat. I received no discounts, no cops were called that I'm aware of. My friend was still about 15 minutes late, but after all, the food was really good and someone saw a photo of my tabby boy and smiled. It wasn't a bad day. I did something this weekend that I'm proud of. Please consider that this story can't be considered petty revenge because I wasn't the target of malice here, and even though this man didn't direct his BS at me at the time, he really seemed entitled enough to meet the criteria. I just wanted to clarify this just in case. Time to begin. Right now I'm feeling proud of myself for doing something wild. This last weekend I and my wife decided to visit her family. They live in a much larger city than we do, and we go now and again to break up the monotony. On Saturday, my wife and her sister wanted to go shopping at one of the larger malls in the area. Not wanting to do anything alone, I tagged along. At some point while listening to the girl talk, I decided to grab a bite, so I told my wife and headed to the food court. At this point the lunch rush was still going on, so the place was fairly packed. I decided on Chinese food, a place I had been to before, so I trusted that the food was good. So I got in line to wait like anyone else. This particular restaurant was pretty simple. It had 4 cashier lines and grills behind it where you could watch the cooks make your order while you wait. But being a Chinese place, it took longer than the typical fast food place, so the lines were moving slowly. While waiting, my phone died. I simply forgot to charge it earlier, so I started people watching the crowd to avoid getting bored. Nothing out of the ordinary until I noticed Edie with 2 boys a little bit ahead of me in the line next to me. The 2 boys, maybe around 11 and 9, must have been getting impatient because they would periodically start to screw around or bug Edie, occasionally pushing each other around or asking when they would have food. Edie looked like he was growing more agitated by the minute. Every time he had to turn to deal with these 2, his face grew redder and redder. Understand, dear reader, that this was a busy, loud area and they weren't being super loud, so they didn't really attract attention yet. I did, however, have to turn away now and again to avoid being noticed though. The trouble started when Edie finally reached his turn. The girl politely did the usual and asked him for his order, but instead of just ordering, Edie started to complain, mainly about how long he and the 2 boys were in line for. She did her best to be polite, but he just kept going for a few minutes. By this time the gentleman behind the trio was also getting annoyed. He noticed me and gestured to Edie with the "You gotta be kidding me" look, so I just responded with a shrug. As far as I know, he wasn't wrong. If Edie was in such a hurry, why not just get your food and be done with it? Eventually the girl at the register was able to get the order. I was now second in place in my line and right next to the 2 kids by this point. I could hear the angry Edie go into a tirade about the performance of the restaurant and insist that if it wasn't for his kid wanting it, they would have gone to a better place. About how said Japanese place was better, but because it was currently closed they had to suffer through this. Edie even started to insult the poor girl behind the counter. The gentleman behind Edie and the two boys tried to tell Edie off, telling him they are just doing their best, but Edie shot back with the typical "I'm a paying customer so I can do what I want" excuse, and kept going. The girl was obviously growing upset, and Edie was bullying her, and I could see tears start to form in her eyes. Edie just wouldn't give her a break. The gentleman behind the trio was also looking like he was getting ready to throw punches. At this point I thought that I really wanted to do something, but I didn't want to get into a fight, even if I had backup or ended being the backup for someone else. That's when I noticed it. Edie was wearing cargo shorts, the kind that never seems to fit right. I thought for a second and found an alternative idea. I found myself just reacting, and the whole thing took only a few seconds. I stepped forward in between Edie and the two kids, grabbed both side loops of the seat of his pants and yanked as hard as I could. Without stopping, I immediately ran for it. I had to push through a lady in the last line, but I made it. I heard a lot of screaming behind me, but not wanting to get pummeled by an angry ED, I didn't even look back. I ran to the other side of the mall where my wife was still shopping with her sister. I knew my wife enough to predict what stores they would be in. I felt safe enough in a girl's clothing store next to my wife. So after I caught my breath, I just started laughing. My wife asked what the F, and I just told her I would tell her later. I didn't want to spoil their shopping, so I spent the rest of the time keeping an eye out for an angry ED. I did spot them at one point, now with a blonde lady and a little girl in tow, but that was it. I was lucky enough to avoid them. When we decided to go eat the lunch, rush was pretty much over and I just had to know. I went back to the Chinese place, and luckily the young girl was still there, so I purposely waited behind an extra person for a chance to talk. When I got the chance, I asked her what happened to ED. She told me that someone yanked his pants down mid-tirade. The guy who did the deed took off, but ED couldn't catch him because the gentleman behind ED took the opportunity to push ED flat on his ass. The gentleman just insisted that he was trying to catch the culprit and missed. Lol. Then ED, being the official center of attention, just grumbled for the rest of the time. He got his food paid and sat down on the opposite side of the food court somewhere. I wanted to laugh, but just in case, I never told her it was me who did the pantsing, even though I really wanted to do so. I just took my order and joined my wife and her sister for lunch. I told my wife later and we had a laugh. She scolded me for putting such a stunt, but was proud of me for finding such a funny method for helping the cashier. Right now I'm still beaming about it and wanted to share on Reddit. So those were the stories for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be highly appreciated. It really does help my channel out. Also, if you enjoy this and want to stay up to date on the latest videos, then don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next video.